Hello, it is Super CJK once again, and it's time for the next episode of Let's Never Play Again. And I think I mentioned this in the soccer episode where it was changed into a retro gameplay. I said that the next Let's Never Play would be quite an interesting one, really. As you can see, Super CJK 333 started off with this very first game. SSX Tricky. You know, the classic, memorable SSX Tricky. I can see we've had a lot of drama moments there. And in 2012, I've never played any other. In 2012, like, a lot of people said that the new SSX game, which was just called SSX, everyone said that it'd be a quite good game, and that it was exactly like this game. Exactly like Tricky. But sadly, I bought it thinking that it was SSX Tricky, but sadly it didn't feel like Tricky at all, and I didn't enjoy the game. So that's why this episode of Let's Never Play Again, we'll be looking at SSX 2012 for the Xbox 360. This is Let's Never Play Again, SSX. Welcome to the Let's Never Play of SSX Tricky. As you can see, I'd never expect me to put a game, which is, kind of related to Tricky, but it's just that there is a lot of problems with this game. I have to admit that there was, and I think it could have been dealt better. I presume. It's just that it's just that when I brought this game, I was like, oh yeah, because a lot of fans sent emails saying that have you checked out this new SSX game? This could be the next Tricky. And it's no one's fault here. It's no one's fault here. It's just that everyone else was hyped that it was going to be like Tricky. But it's just that the controls and everything else, it just didn't feel like Tricky. And to be honest, it looks a lot confusing, even though it looks kind of simple. It's strangely quite confusing.
Welcome to the first stop on the SSX Deadly Descent road trip. Thought we'd kick things off right here at home, and there's no better place to do it than the...
I'm going to skip that because... I guess we'll start with the... Oh, armour required. As you can see, I'm glad it saved all me memory and stuff like that, but... As you can see, there was a story to this, and basically it was like a rival skateboarder wanted to take on the world's deadliest mountains, and your team SSX must defeat him, say, no, we can conquer these dangerous mountains better than you can. And which is quite a big bad for a fact, because throughout SSX Tricky history, we've spent taking on, race mode, show-off mode. I'll be comparing this game a lot to Tricky because, Tricky is one of my favourites if you want a #1 game, so there will be a lot of, equivalent to comparing it to Tricky. First I've got to begin with the controls. Basically when you're on the ground, your A button's to prepare for a jump. But when you jump off the air, your control stick, because your control stick is the trick button. It's just that I can't control the tricks that I do in this game. It's just that your control stick is not only your movement button, but your it's also your trick button. It's also your backflip and ollie button, which is a bit unfair, to be honest with you, because be honest, I can't play this game. It's just that that's the thing which puts me off the most in this game. That your trick button is I mean, look, it may say tricky there, that I got the Uber trick, but it doesn't feel like it. It's just that it doesn't feel the same as when you actually play tricky and you pull it off. So I'm going to give out the controls here. Basically, your A button is your jump. But it's just that your control stick, on the ground it's movement, but in the air it's like you're doing ollies and backflips. But if you think about it, in SSX Tricky, your D-pad, or like your D-pad equivalent, was at the bottom, and you use that to do like faster ollies and backflips, and whereas your control stick was the movement. And remember, the grab button tricks were your like shoulder buttons, like on your either PlayStation, Xbox or GameCube. But now your trick buttons are like the buttons. You know, your boost button, your it's just like I don't like how, like, you know, EA set up the controls on this game. I'm not a big fan of the controls because it's too advanced. Because I mean even tried to change it as well, but I can't change it. I mean, the only thing I can do in this game is just cruise along the mountains. But to get to the Delhi Mountains, or your like survival challenge, you've got to do race and show off. And to be honest, it's quite difficult doing that when all your buttons are like a trick button. It's just like I can't compete with these controls. Whereas SSX Tricky, it was easy because your A button was your jump button. Actually, I'm using the GameCube controls here because, you know, I've got it on the GameCube. A was your jump, B was your boost, well, Y button was your restarter, and X button was like just a quick ollie, just like, you know, just a little 180 ollie, and your shoulder buttons and your Z button was your grab button. It was easy control, whereas, you know, this game, actually got a nice cutscene here, but gives me a time to it's just like, you know, the controls are confusing because basically I've got it on the Xbox here. Your control stick, that's your flip button, or, you know, your faster ollie, and your, you know, it's your flip button, the control stick when you're in the air, but it's also your ground button when you're moving. I mean, the A button's the jump, but when you're in the air, the A button's also a trick. The B button's a trick. Y button and X button's a trick. It's all like the main buttons are the trick buttons. Which the buttons may sound easy, but when you actually physically play the game, you're like, oh, this game's a lot tougher than I thought. As you see, I've only gone as far as completing. I've only gone as far as you know, this level, Siberia, and also the Rockies. It's just that I just don't enjoy the controls because you do have to do race and show off mode to get to these like deadly descents, and to be honest, it's tough to race when your trick button and your boost buttons are the same. It's just that it's like a one button does all, but you want a different button for each feature, and this is not what the game gives you. I'm sure I make it. To be honest, I didn't make it look easy in the first place either. So I mean, it's just that this game didn't stick to the simple, you know, it's a show-off mode, and it just didn't stick with the, you know, the basics that, you know, it's a show-off mode, there's a race mode. I mean, this level's actually quite hard as well. As you can see, that's your restart button there. It's just like they turned it into like a survival game. But couldn't it just be a normal, you know, get the points, beat your opponent? That's why it's not like Tricky. Tricky was like simple, whereas this game's actually quite complicated. I mean, this is a tough level, and this is like the second level. I mean, sure, I know we're taking on deadly mountains, but did the game have to be that difficult? I mean, as you can see, I'm going arse over tip here. There's no break button either. There's no break button in this game. That's the other problem as well. It's just. But basically, every Deadly Descent has a theme. Like, you know, you've got to avoid trees. You know, you got to do tree stuff. You survive through, you know, ice. You know, survive, you know, heights. You know, different theme stuff. Which is like, I don't think this is a game I can physically complete because, you know, it's just like this game's not tricky. And I think that's the reason this is a Let's Never Play Again, because basically because of that, it's not tricky. And to be honest, this is the second SSX game I've brought. It's just like I'm stuck with Tricky on the mind. I love Tricky. I'm happy when I play Tricky. Basically, the idea of, like, you know, well, I haven't even done online here because I just don't think I'm ready for online because this game's quite difficult. It's just that it doesn't have the race mode and show-off mode that I loved from Tricky. It just doesn't have that love. And to be honest, I don't love this game at all. And a lot of people thought that this game would be the next Tricky, even I did, because a lot of people are convinced that this would be the next Tricky, but this was before we found out this was like Deadly Descent as well. I mean, I could complete this game when I had the time. It's just that I don't like this game. I mean, if I put a lot of practice into it, I might understand the controls. Like, you know, oh, that's what the A button does. That's why. See, I've got to use the, you know, the R, B, and the. Your boost buttons, your shoulder buttons. They're not your grab buttons anymore. Your boost button's your shoulder button in this game. See, I am doing quite well on the ice here. Actually, that should. See. I mean, it just doesn't feel like Tricky. It feels like a different snowboarding game. I think if this game was a different snowboarding game, I think I would have kind of respected it, but they just slapped on SSX, thinking, yeah, you know, that's the EA thing to do. They just slapped on SSX Tricky. And then you're thinking, you can't do that. You can't just slap on. You know, you just can't slap on the. I mean, look. I mean, these characters, they're different as well. I mean, all these characters look different. It's not the game I grew up with. It doesn't feel like it. It's just that I'm used to Tricky, and you know, I think if the controls were like Tricky, I think I would enjoy the game more. It's just that the controls, you know, the fact that it's not simple, you know, simple race mode, show off mode, get the gold medal thing. I mean, it's a new approach they tried at least, but at the end of the day, I didn't like the new approach. I'm going to take my time here, because I actually want to learn this game physically, but I mean, I could play this game if I want to, but just that, would this be a proper Let's Play? Would I record this? I probably would not record it. I mean, sure, they tried to trick you to Tricky by making, like, you know, your Uber trick, but it just doesn't feel like the same. It doesn't feel like you're earning something, because, you know, you had your you know, you got your super boost when you know, your super boost when you won. I mean, I will give this game a chance, because I believe this game has a lot of good features, and who knows, I might change my mind about this game, you know, when I do give it a chance. It's just tough to determine what tricks. As you can see, I'm getting beaten by the computers here. It just doesn't feel like Tricky. And you know, this game, I would like this game to be a lot more. As you see, I'm not doing very good here. It's just these controls. I just can't make the landing that I want. I mean, oh, you see, because you know, in like skateboarding games and snowboarding games, you always want to hold on. You always want to hold jump. Even if you don't do a trick, you still want to hold A after you make that landing. But this game, you know, it don't allow you that like freedom. I mean, basically, you've got to remember, like, it's like this game's trying to say, you know, all your Tony Hawk's and SSX Tricky knowledge. Yeah, you're gonna have to throw that out the pan. It's just that I know there is a lot more to this game, but I just don't like it. And it's just basically not SSX Tricky. I think if it was more like Tricky, like the controls, you know, then I think this game would be actually a lot more enjoyable. To be honest, this game itself is a bit like the Deadly Descent. This game's the 10th Deadly Descent. After you conquer 9 mountains, to be honest, you gotta conquer this game. As you can see, I do that. It's just that the scoring system don't make sense either, because I thought I was doing quite well there, you know, with the trickies I got. I thought I was actually doing quite well, but it turned out I didn't know what I was doing. And it's just that I don't feel like doing you know, like. And it's just that, once again, EA does its typical, oh, you know, you must buy stuff to play. Oh, hello, that's an achievement right there, I'll take that. Actually, I'm going to try buying some stuff here. It's just like it's just a lot confusing, and I just don't, you know, enjoy it as much as I should have. I think I might buy the characters and, you know, it's just like I wish this game was, you know, something just a bit more, you know, just a lot more than what it was. It's just like I was hyped about this game, like, even though I got it like January sales, I was just hoping that this game would be, you know, the next Tricky. So I think this might be the last thing we do before, you know, I end it here. Oh yeah, I'll go and be ready. Sorry, this is online. I mean, I don't know how this is going to end up. This is going to end so badly because I don't know how to play this. And I hope I'm not the only person who has difficulty with this game. I hope there's a lot of others who like don't enjoy the game because of the same reasons. But let me know what you think about this game. I mean, it doesn't feel like you've earned that Tricky because it disappears really quickly. It's just like it doesn't feel like they're like signature tricks anymore. It's just like it feels like everything was taken away. It's like, I don't know how the scoring system works as well. Oh, here we go. Actually did quite well there. I beat my opponent at least. So I hope you enjoyed this you know, this very surprising and rare edition of Let's Never Play Again. I think this is a game I need to get off my chest because, you know, when this game come out, I was actually going to do a blind playthrough of it, but you know, because of the controls, I didn't enjoy it, and I felt like it doesn't. Even though I did complete it on the recording, I just didn't like the footage I got. I didn't like the footage I got, so you know, I chucked it aside. I was like, nah, I've got to delete this footage. But then when I thought of Let's Never Play Again, I thought this game may have to be in it, sadly. Just, you know, for the reasons. Number one, controls. Number two, it's not tricky. And number three, I don't know why, but I think it just looks complicated for a game, strangely enough. And so those are the reasons why I don't like it. But let me know what you think about this game, and to be honest, my only recommendation is stick to Tricky. Stick to SSX Tricky for your PlayStation 2, your Xbox and your GameCube. So this has been Super CJK 333. Farewell and cheerios.